Hi, I'm Matt Kundle, and this is number 0821, the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, and it comes to you right now.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Now, it's time for an eclectic mix of interviews and some of the oddest news stories you'll ever hear. It's the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Hey there, hi there, ho there! Peter Anthony Holder here with you, and yes, this is indeed another edition of the Stuff File program, number 0821. And coming up on this edition of the Stuff File program, legendary film producer Peter Samuelson, who is the author of Finding Happy, a user's guide to your life with lessons from mine. He's also the creator of the Starlight Children's Foundation.
Here we are 41 years later. We've raised and spent about $1.4 billion in all of the Starlight aspects, from left to right: Australia, Canada, United States, UK. We've helped hundreds and thousands of seriously ill children. We're supported by enormous corporations like Disney and Nintendo, and it's a huge success. And that was how I got my feet wet, by founding Starlight all those years ago.
Natasha Marsh is the co-owner of the Dorchester Jail Bed and Breakfast in New Brunswick. How did this idea start?
So we purchased the jail in 2017. My husband, he's quite eclectic. He likes some kind of different things there, macabre things and morbid things. So when we first bought the jail, we weren't too sure what we were going to do with it. We knew we wanted to live here in the jail, but we didn't know what we wanted to do with the rest of the space. So we just joked with each other, like, you know what? We can't be the only crazy people that might want to spend a night in jail. Like, let's try a bed and breakfast. 2017, our first summer, we were sold out essentially every night. That's when we kind of thought that we had something.
Stuart Nulman is in with another edition of Book Banter.
Hi from New York, it's Book Banter. Join me as we look at the life and enigmatic career of the man who created Saturday Night Live, Lorne Michaels. I'll see you at Studio 8H soon on the Stuff File program.
And there's lots and lots of Stuff File news, dad joke theater, morning shower thoughts, and of course, an idiot of the day. The guest later, the person who told you this was show number 0821, was Matt Kundle, owner of Sound Off Podcast Network, and a veteran broadcaster and a really nice guy. Thank you very much, Matt, for doing the guest slate on this edition of the Stuff File program, a show that is listener-supported, fan-funded radio that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Well, let's get right to the stuff. Police in Akron, Ohio caught body cam video of a bandit behind the wheel with a meth pipe in his mouth during a traffic stop on May the 5th. But Chewy, the bandit in question, did not face arrest because Chewy is a pet raccoon. As the driver of the vehicle, 55-year-old Victoria Vidal, was detained for having an active warrant and driving with a suspended license, officers returned to Vidal's vehicle to find Chewy in the driver's seat with the drug paraphernalia, said the Springfield Township Police Department on its Facebook post. While our officers are trained to expect the unexpected, finding a raccoon holding a meth pipe is a first. No raccoons were hurt or injured in the incident. Did anybody check to see if the raccoon had a driver's license? And why was he not arrested for the meth pipe? Maybe he was on meth as a prescription for his vision because someone told him that would help.
That's how eyesight works, you stupid raccoon.
Don't call me a raccoon!
I'm sorry. I took it too far. I meant trash panda.
Is that better?
I don't know. It's worse. It's so much worse.
Anyone familiar with A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh stories knows bears love honey and will go to great lengths for the sweet stuff.
The only reason for being a bee is to make honey. And the only reason for making honey is so I can eat it.
So it's not exactly surprising that Jeff Bonner of Bezetta, Ohio, recently caught a bear on the motion-activated cameras that he had set up to protect his apiary. What was surprising, what was little remained in the aftermath of the bear's late-night snack attack. Said Bonner, he ate the frame, the wax that was there, and the bees. He literally ate a whole hive of bees. Bonner estimates the hive had held some 10,000 to 50,000 bees. He expects the bear to return to the newly found food source, and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources recommended that he increase the apiary security with more cameras and an electric fence. Could you imagine swallowing up to 50,000 bees? Belching could be dangerous.
No bother. Empty again.
Okay, here's one who really takes one for the team. In an effort to build up an immunity to the venom of lethal snakes, 57-year-old Wisconsin herpetologist Tim Freed allowed himself to be bitten over 200 times and self-administered more than 650 venom injections over 18 years while steadfastly documenting the effects. As described in a study published in the journal Cell last week, scientists have used the unique antibodies in Freed's blood to create a drug that fully protected mice from the venom of 13 deadly snake species. Researchers hope Freed's work, and his blood, will lead to the creation of a universal antivenom. Freed said, "I'm really proud that I can do something in life for humanity." Wow, so how many times has he been Employee of the Month? And finally, in this section of Stuff File News, before we get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder, let's go from one extreme to the other. A judge in London, England, recently awarded Lorna Rook, former training and practice supervisor for the National Health Service's Blood and Transplant Division, a whopping $38,729 for being compared to Darth Vader.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
In 2021, Rook and her co-workers were asked to participate in a team-building exercise featuring a Star Wars-themed questionnaire that would reveal which character from the sci-fi fantasy franchise their personality most resembled.
There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you.
Rook didn't participate, but found out later that co-workers had filled it out for her, and the result came up Sith Lord.
Fail me, and you will not live to regret it.
Though the quiz described Vader as a very focused individual, Rook called the comparison highly unflattering and said it made her super unpopular around the office, leading her to resign a month later.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
Okay, so the judge set the penalty at a whopping $38,729. Either that judge was very progressive, or they were afraid that they would stop breathing like Captain Nida.
Apology accepted, Captain Nida.
I mean, that apology sounds like a threat.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Hey, I'm just making a point, pal. Don't get all bent out of shape. It's not like you're my dad or something. Anyway, let's get to our first guest here on this edition of the Stuff All program, shall we? Peter Samuelson is a legendary film producer of such films as Revenge of the Nerds, Tom and Viv, and Turk 182, just to name a few. Back in the day, he also was the production manager on Return of the Pink Panther. He also started the Los Angeles-based nonprofit organization Starlight Children's Foundation, which brings entertainment and technology to children in hospitals. Peter has written the book Finding Happy, a user's guide to your life with lessons from mine, a book that is geared toward young adults starting their adult journey. He joins us via Zoom from Los Angeles. Hi, Peter.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be.
Nice to have a chance to talk to you. And again, as I said, you are legendary. So I want to start about the Starlight Children's Foundation. You helped to start that. What was, in your estimation, the need, and what was the impetus in starting that? And how has it grown?
It started because my young cousin, a fledgling actress who still lived in London, phoned me and said, I think I may have done a terrible thing. We did a cast tour of Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, and I met this 10-year-old little boy, terminally ill, and I asked him what would make him happy, and he said, oh, that's easy. I want to go to Disneyland. She said, I think we have to bring him to LA. I said, well, then we shall. So Sean and his mum flew to LA, and the two of them and the cousin moved into my apartment, and we spent 2 weeks doing what you probably shouldn't be doing with a dying child, but everyone had a fantastic time. He really enjoyed himself, and we realized we had given a great gift to the mother, Brenda, because she would remember her kid, laughing in the teacups at Disneyland and not in a hospital bed with a tube up his nose. That was the initial act, if you like. But then the epiphany was that I stood at the end of a conference room table I pulled together, what do film producers do? I put in that room friends and colleagues who I thought might be interested. And I said, we just did this. Maybe we could do 5, 6, 7 of them a year. There must be a lot of sick kids in the world. That was the foundational meeting for the Starlight Children's Foundation. Here we are 41 years later, God help me. I know I sound as though I'm in my late 20s, but actually, no, much older than that. We've raised and spent about $1.4 billion in all of the Starlight aspects, from left to right: Australia, Canada, United States, UK. We've helped hundreds and thousands of seriously ill children. We're supported by enormous corporations like Disney and Nintendo. And it's a huge success. And that was how I got my feet wet, by founding Starlight all those years ago. And I realized what you learn as a film producer is how to make things happen. And it's exactly the same toolkit to start a nonprofit to address an issue where perhaps other people haven't addressed it. In that case, it was seriously ill children are sad. Why don't we make them happy? What's difficult to understand in that? Nothing. So we did it. And, I've now got 7 charities under my belt, all, thank God, alive, well, and thriving. And I think we're doing good work. I don't think I'm a legend, except possibly in my own mind. I do think it's the work of thousands of people, volunteers and excellent professional staff in the 7 nonprofits. So that's a long-winded answer to your question.
Well, you mentioned the fact that you got an opportunity to see the mother see her child being happy, even if it's in his final days. And I'm just curious to know what it did to your heart seeing that experience that first time.
Oh, it completely transformed my life. What I realized starting then is that if you really want to be happy, and it's what my book is about, how do you find happy? Because what's the point of life if you don't have happiness for yourself and the people you care about? What I realized is the meaning of life. It's not the Monty Python film. The meaning of life, actually, if you want to find your own happiness, is you have to get off your duff and go and help other people, because by helping them in one way or another, we find our own purpose. And once we find our purpose, we find how to be happy. And what I realized, one of my other charities, which is also now enormous and thriving, both in the UK and in the United States, is called First Star, firststar.org. And we house, educate, and encourage high school-aged foster kids, so kids who've been abused or neglected, for the 4 years of high school, and then we get 89% of them into college, against what would otherwise be the benchmark for foster kids, which is 6%. So it's a huge success. But I've done so much mentoring through First Star, and I realized I have kind of pattern recognition. I know what is of concern. I know what's bothering adolescent and slightly older young adult kids generally, and I've raised 4 of my own who worked out rather well. And I thought I could write this down. And then I realized as a film producer, I've had so many ridiculous adventures, working with completely bonkers, crazy, nuts actors, stars sometimes. And I realized I can use anecdotes from my life to illustrate the chapters in the book. So if there's a chapter, and there is, what is a good risk? What is a bad risk? How can you tell the difference? I realized in my life, I've taken risks I shouldn't have because I nearly killed myself. I haven't taken some risks that it would have been really good to take. And so I've made my guidance subject by subject through Finding Happy, the book. I've used these crazy things that have happened to me as a film producer. I think it fits together rather well. You could have knocked me over with a feather when Simon and Schuster Regalo won the bidding war and got the rights. And it comes out June 10. And may it thrive. I've just bought with another fellow donor, we've just bought 600 copies, which we are giving free to all the students in First Star and all the alumni. And I hope it's perennial. I think it's a book for any parent or grandparent or uncle or aunt or a teacher or a member of the clergy, anyone who cares about a specific young adult, whether they are graduating from high school and a bit bewildered beginning college, or they're finishing college and now they have to go make a living somewhere. There's a lot of bewilderment at the moment. It's a very challenging world for young adults, and I intend the book to be the user's manual. It's kind of what I know now that I wish I knew.
You've had a career where you've given yourself to charities, and this book seems to be the culmination. What was the aha moment for you when you decided, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I realized that the mentoring I do seems to be helpful, and I don't win them all, but I win most of them. And I think I do help lift up young adults and help them in their perplexity to get themselves a bit sorted out and come up with a roadmap. What is your destination? How can you know what direction to walk if you don't know where you're trying to get to, and all that kind of thing? So kind of life hacks. And I realized I'm reaching through First Star and in other ways. I'm a member of the Mentor Project, for example. I'm reaching dozens, scores, possibly hundreds of young people. But I realized if I write a book, I could reach some tens of thousands. So why wouldn't I do that? So in order to get it done, because it's a prodigious thing, it took me a year and a half, I decided I will get up at 5 a.m. every morning and I will write for 1 hour before the phone starts ringing. And I just did it 5 days a week. And I ended up with the book, and really privileged at who's publishing it. The team at Regalo, Simon & Schuster, fantastic. It's not only, on Amazon, but also Barnes & Noble and a whole lot of other bookstores. And then the latest thing, which my young adult children find just hilarious, is it's going into Target. There's going to be a display of the book Finding Happy by yours truly. My son said to me, he's a very sort of dour, amusing, ironic young man, Jeffrey. He said, where are they going to put it? Presumably between the condoms and the plastic spoons. And I said, it's funny, you're so intuitive, Jeff, because that is exactly where they are putting it. And that is its natural place in the universe.
You don't like the word legendary, but I will use a legendary word, and I will also use iconic, in that you have been innovative in whatever you have done through the film and industry. And I'm just wondering if you are looking forward to having your book available not only in a reader's form, not only in a voice on a book on tape form, but also in a visual form, either on TikTok, on YouTube, where some of the things that you share with people can be in the form that a lot of young people get their information from these days anyway.
Yes. Well, one always has to think through the prism of TikTok, right?
Right.
Which means short form. It means 1 minute, 2 minute video clips. There is a Miami-based documentary filmmaker who has proposed to me that he effectively use the book as a script and make a documentary, and not only have it live as a 85, 90-minute complete film, but also break it down the way the chapters are broken down by subject, and those short 1 and 2 and 3 minute, 4 minute videos we would indeed put up on Instagram and TikTok and so forth. I just finished recording the audio book. I had to go and sit in a booth and read my book from the front cover to the back cover into a great big microphone while an engineer sat in the next room and told me I needed to do some paragraphs again. You fluffed the word. It took me 4 days of almost, it felt like a lifetime of reading aloud, but we got it done. So it's actually, the paperback goes into the stores June 10, and it's on Amazon and all the rest of it, as you would expect. And the Kindle drops the same day, and so does the audiobook. I think, although it is focused on young adults, call it Gen Z, 18 to 30 years old maybe, I think it is actually for a wider demographic than that, because all of us, I think until we die, we're always looking for happy. And I think I have now, and it's a great gift to me by what I have done in the charities. The biggest gift is not what I've done for the charities and the kids and so forth and the homeless people. It's what they've done for me, because I've learned a thing or two. And the most significant thing is I am a very happy guy, and I think I know where I got that. And it is through lifting up other lives. What's that line? A man never stands so tall as when he stoops to hold the hand of a child in need. Sometimes the meaning of life is staring us in the face, and I think it's in that phrase.
Well, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your career. The book is Finding Happy, A User's Guide to Your Life with Lessons from Mine. Peter, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be on the program with us.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm always happy to meet a namesake.
Peter Samuelson, author of Finding Happy, A User's Guide to Your Life with Lessons from Mine. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0821, and you'll find links to Peter's site, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order his book directly. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
And now, Dad Joke Theater.
Why do crabs never volunteer? Because they're shellfish.
Join us again for another Stuff File program, Dad Joke Theater.
There's still more guests, more news, and an idiot of the day coming your way on the Stuff File program. Stay tuned. The Stuff File program is a listener-supported, fan-funded radio show that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Sign up and find out about our rewards program. Being a patron doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. There's absolutely no obligation. You could join today and end whenever you'd like, but the time we have your support would be so greatly appreciated. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about the show and even your ideas for rewards. Join us for the ride. Join us at patreon.com/TheStuffFile program.
I'm standing with you for Canada. Hi there, this is Cynthia Dale. I've played many roles, but the small role I'm playing now, buying Canadian products, supporting Canadian businesses, protecting Canadian jobs. I've never been prouder of a role in my life. Shop as if your country depends on it. Keep your money in Canada, for Canada.
Choosy mothers choose the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. If your mother didn't choose it for you, well, I guess she just doesn't love you.
And still to come on the program, we'll talk to the co-owner of the Dorchester Jail B&B in New Brunswick. Plus, Stuart Nulman is along with another edition of Book Banter. We also have a morning shower thought and, of course, an idiot of the day. And lots more in Stuff File News right here, right now. ChatGPT can perform many impressive tasks, sometimes with amusing results. But it may need to stay out of tasseography. A Greek woman recently filed for divorce from her husband after the OpenAI chatbot asserted that the man was having an affair and that his mistress was intent on destroying their home, a conclusion the bot came to upon reading the coffee grounds in the couple's mugs in a photo the woman uploaded to the app. Said the husband, "I laughed it off as nonsense, but she took it seriously. She asked me to leave, told our kids we were getting divorced, and then I got a call from a lawyer. That's when I realized this wasn't just a phase." The husband's lawyer maintains that ChatGPT's claims have no legal standing. So, AI read the coffee grounds and decided that the husband was cheating. This brings new meaning to the term trouble brewing.
Hey, great coffee.
It's instant Folgers. Doesn't it taste good as fresh perked?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Instant Folgers taste good as fresh perked. Try it.
A 47-year-old Florida man was recently gored by a bison while visiting Yellowstone National Park. Rangers suspect that the visitor approached the animal and got too close for its comfort. The man sustained minor injuries, and the incident is still under investigation. This is the first reported bison injury of 2025. National Park rangers remind guests to stay more than 25 yards away from all large animals and at least 100 yards away from bears and wolves. Yeah, but they don't make selfie sticks that long. Residents of a Turkish town may have experienced a second-hand high after police burned 20 tons of confiscated marijuana in the city center. For 5 days, locals could not open their windows and avoided leaving their homes. The destroyed cannabis was valued at over $260 million, said one official. This was perhaps done as a preventative measure to deter, but the fact that it was destroyed in the city center could cause serious discomfort to people due to the smoke of burned hemp. He recommends police instead dispose of marijuana in factories with filtered chimneys. Well, I know that hindsight is always 20/20, but seriously, what were they thinking? It's almost as if they were high when they came up with this idea. Well, if you're keeping track, I think it's 2 weeks in a row now that we've had stories of people defecating in public. Here's the latest one. A Pennsylvania woman is being called the Delco Pooper after allegedly defecating on a person's car during a road rage incident. Shortly after being arrested, officers claim Christina Solomito said, "I wanted to punch her in the face, but I pooped on her car instead and went home." Solomito was arrested on April 30th and has been charged with indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and depositing waste on a highway, among other charges. Prospect Park Police Chief David Madonna said that while many jokes are being made, authorities are taking the incident seriously. He said, "The recognition a town gets over this kind of thing is really unwelcome." Yeah, it's a crappy story all the way around. I believe it was William Shakespeare in Twelfth Night who said, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them." By the way, I have seen pictures of Solomito doing the deed. She took a dump on the front end of the car, which means she dropped trow, bent over, and did her business while the driver was still in the car. That is extremely daring. That driver could have just launched Solomito, and no one wants to be found that way. Also, her waste material seems kind of watery. She might want to change her diet. And finally, in this section of Stuff File News, before we get to our next guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder, under the heading of People Do Stupid Things for Clicks, a 24-year-old Swedish mother was convicted of harassment after cracking an egg on her daughter's head in a TikTok video. The trend of parents cracking eggs on their small children's heads took off in 2023. While many saw this as harmless, others did not agree, said prosecutor Cecilia Anderson. To record and humiliate the child and then broadcast it to thousands of viewers, I find that incredibly degrading, and that's my personal opinion. The mother was fined just over $2,000 and must give that sum to her daughter. Nowhere in this story, by the way, is the nugget of knowledge as to whether, because of this treatment, does the child love eggs or hate eggs? Ah, the incredible edible egg.
High in protein and only 80 calories each. Eggs are a natural wonder. For meals, snacks, appetizers, whatever. Eggs don't run out.
The incredible edible egg.
And let's get to our next guest here in this edition of the Stuff All program, shall we? A former prison in New Brunswick is now the Dorchester Jail Bed and Breakfast. Recently, they made the news because a wedding took place in the former prison that was built in 1875. The owners of the Dorchester Jail are Natasha Marsh and Bill Steele. And Natasha joins us via Zoom to talk a little bit about the unique B&B experience that they offer. Hi, Natasha.
Hello, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on the program with us. As again, I saw that story in the news just a little while ago, and you must be getting a lot of attention just because of it.
We certainly are. It was our first ever wedding, and we actually don't even know the brides.
But besides that, you opened up this bed and breakfast a little while ago, and though you had the first wedding there, it's not the first time that people spent their first night as a couple in your bed and breakfast.
That is correct. So we've had at least 8 brides and grooms come and spend their first night of holy matrimony here with us. Whether they got married at a church or another venue, they had to start their life sentence off right, and there's no better place to do that in jail.
So how did the bed and breakfast come about in the first place?
So we purchased the jail in 2017. My husband, he's quite eclectic. He likes some kind of different things there, macabre things and morbid things. And so when we first bought the jail, we weren't too sure what we were going to do with it. We knew we wanted to live here in the jail, but we didn't know what we wanted to do with the rest of the space. So we just joked with each other, like, you know what? We can't be the only crazy people that might want to spend a night in jail. Like, let's try a bed and breakfast. 2017, our first summer, we were sold out essentially every night. That's when we kind of thought that we had something.
Now, you say you opened this in 2017, I would assume, and I'm sure it was very, very popular when you first started. But then you must have hit head on the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
So what was that like for you?
Well, fortunately, the way that the building is structured, we were still able to have guests through for the B&B experience, but we were only able to have one family or one couple through at a time, which made things a little difficult. But there was so much interest for people to come and stay that it really encouraged us to keep the doors open.
Okay. Well, as I said in the introduction, this is a former prison that was built in 1875. So what kind of renovations did you have to do in order to make this an accommodating bed and breakfast?
So my husband and I, we've tried to keep the building as original as we possibly can. They certainly don't make them like this anymore. And so we put smoke detectors in each of the cells, and we disabled the locks in the cells where people sleep so we don't have any accidents or have anyone staying any longer than they might want to. Pardon me, we updated a little bit of the electrical and the plumbing into our residence. So we actually live in the part of the building where the warden and his family used to live.
So when people stay in the cells, I mean, there's the one thing that is common to most jails, and that there really isn't any privacy. There's bars and you can't get out, but there's no privacy. What have you done to give a modicum of privacy to people who are enjoying the bed and breakfast experience?
So we do provide each of our cells with a privacy curtain. Of course, it's black and white striped. We've got the aesthetic here. A lot of people, they really enjoy the experience, especially when there is other people in the cells, like down the hallway and stuff. It really gives that real jail vibe. And we find a lot of people down in the common area kind of reminiscing and enjoying the experience together. So it's nice to see people can have a bit of camaraderie in the jail as well.
Now, there are some people who have, shall we say, a notorious history for being in that particular prison. I mean, the prison itself has a notorious history. I guess one of the biggest stories that people talk about are the Bannister brothers. They were hung at the jail for the murder of 3 members of the same family in Moncton. Do people come and visit because of the lore of what took place in that jail?
Arthur and Daniel Bannister were actually hung inside of the jail on September 23rd, 1936. But they still had singular hangings here up in the jail up until 1964. Definitely, it's one of the most infamous, or some of the most infamous inmates that were ever housed and executed here. Very sadly, as a parent, this kind of breaks my heart, but the boys were essentially hung because of their mother, because they were asked to do their mother's dirty work for her.
Wow. And so did she get away with this, or was she convicted herself?
No, she was also incarcerated here for a short period of time.
Okay.
At that period of time, the jail was co-ed, so it used to house men and women. Up until about the 60s. So she was also incarcerated here, and they were actually all in the same hallway together. So the female inmates were actually housed in the death row hallway. So she was 20 feet away from where her sons were being held in death row.
Wow. And when did the jail end or close exactly?
So the jail's only been closed for about 27 years. It closed in 1998.
The people in the area, I bet when they closed the jail, they never thought it would become a bed and breakfast.
I don't think so. We gave him a shock.
So now that you have officiated in your first marriage at the jail, and it has garnered a certain amount of publicity, are there plans for more? Are more people planning to say, gee, I think I want to get married at that jail?
Well, I think people, the wedding here certainly put the idea into people's heads. We've certainly mentioned that we could host weddings here, but I don't think anyone was brave enough yet to take us up on the offer. So when Rachel and Ashley decided to come and get wed here, I think it opened people's eyes to other possibilities of things that can be done here at the jail.
How far afield do your B&B clients come from? Are they just from the Maritimes, the rest of the country, or even internationally?
They come internationally. We've had people from all over the world come and visit, from New Zealand, Germany, Japan, Australia. We see a lot of European travelers through the jail as well.
Is your B&B unique to the world? And by that I mean, are there others that you know about that are jails or former jails?
So as far as I know, the only other former jail or correctional facility that is doing anything similar to this would be the old jail in Ottawa. And from my understanding, I've never personally been there, but they've removed like the jail cells and things and turned it into kind of like a hostel. So here you actually sleep right inside of an authentic jail cell where we've left all of the original artwork from the prisoners on the walls. Our guests have the option to, quote, lock themselves in overnight if they so choose.
Now, I understand that you didn't initially buy this for a B&B. You just bought it to buy and live in yourself. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So when you guys did this, when you and Bill did this, was it a situation where your friends and family said, oh, that's a ridiculous idea? Or did they just simply say, well, that's Natasha and Bill?
Oh, no, they said we're absolutely certified crazy, but the jail is home sweet home. Like you couldn't pay me to leave. This building is so incredibly special. And for us, not only to get to live in it, but get to share it with other people, that is so rewarding.
You're not the first owner since the jail has closed. So who did you buy it from and why did they sell it?
So the gentleman that we purchased the building from, his name is Andrew Partridge, and he's also a local here in the village of Dorchester where the jail resides. He jokingly put in a bid when the province put the jail up for sale in the year 2000, and he owned it for 17 years until we purchased it. He had a workout room or a fitness gym here inside of one of the rooms in the jail, but he kept everything else locked up. So when we came to the jail, there had been gym members coming here for over 15 years. They had never had the opportunity to see the jail cells or death row or anything like that. So Bill and I really felt like it was a disservice to the building to keep everything kind of closed and locked up like that. So we decided, we have to learn as much history as we can about this place so we can start showing it and showcasing it to other people.
Is the gym still up and running?
Unfortunately, we lost our gym during COVID. But actually, the room where the wedding was held was the room where the gym used to be.
And did the previous owner live in it as well?
He lived in the jail for a couple of years, and I'll be honest, I think it may have been the spirits or friends that we have here with us that may have scared him out of here. I say that because he was or still is a corrections officer. So I believe our ghost friends, whatever you want to call them, may have given him a bit of a hard time.
Well, I was about to ask that question. Just how haunted is this particular place?
Oh, honey. Since we've owned the jail, we have had 9 paranormal television shows filmed here in the jail. We have had over 50 teams of different paranormal investigators through the building, and almost every single one of them has had some kind of encounter.
And you or Bill have no problem with the ghosts?
Absolutely not. We moved here with the utmost respect that, hey, you know what? This has been your guys' house for the last 150 years. We're just moving here. We'd like to be able to live here nicely with them. And I really feel like they feel and acknowledge that respect. And never once have I ever felt threatened or unwelcome or unwanted. I'd like to think that our spirit friends are happy with what we're doing with the jail. We're having people through and we're sharing the history and we're sharing the stories and we give them other people to play with. So how could they not be happy?
Well, on that note, I've got to ask the question, how can people book? How in advance do they have to book? And what's being offered as far as price ranges are concerned to stay at the Dorchester Jail Bed and Breakfast?
So we haven't raised our Airbnb prices for the jail in over 6 years. We pride ourselves on being cost effective and family friendly. And so we have a couple different options for people to come and stay with us. For a single person in a cell, it's around $89 a night. For 2 people in a jail cell, it's about $189 a night. We have a VIP suite, which is a bit more kind of on par to a regular hotel room setting. And that is about $260. And then we also offer whole jail rentals where we can house up to 12 people a night. And that's around $1,000.
And I assume people can find out more information by going to your website, which is dorchesterjail.com, correct?
Yes, and you can also find us at www.stayinajail.com.
Stay in the jail or stay in a jail?
Stayinajail.com.
Stayinajail.com. Excellent. Thank you very much, Natasha, for being on the program with us.
It's an honor to have me. Thank you very much.
Natasha Marsh, co-owner of the Dorchester Jail Bed and Breakfast. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0821, and you'll find links to their website. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
Giving you something to think about. This is Morning Shower Thoughts.
Have you ever said, "Hey, stranger," to someone you didn't know?
Morning Shower Thoughts from the Stuff File program.
Got something for the mailbag? Drop Peter a line. He'd love to hear from you. Send your email to mailbag@thestufffile.com. And remember, Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's mailbag@thestufffile.com. Or catch up with him on Twitter or Facebook. There's more Stuff File coming your way in just a few moments.
Here's a brief word about our show and my book. If you become a regular Patreon patron of the Stuff File program, I'll give you an e-version of my book, Great Conversations, my interviews with 2 men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. It's easy to do. Just go to patreon.com and become a patron to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. So, join Patreon and claim your copy of Great Conversations, my interviews with 2 men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. Sign up at patreon.com/The Stuff File program.
From our studios in Montreal, Canada, and going out to the rest of the world, this is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's time to crack a spine. The Stuff File presents Book Banter with Stuart Nulman. Once again, here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And of course, here he is, the guy with the books. It's Stuart Nulman. Hi, Stu.
Hi, Peter, and just want to ask you something. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Was that new music that you just used to introduce Book Banter?
Yes, it is. You know, it's my purview every 35 years to change up the music. So we're good to go till 2060.
Well, that's great. I mean, I like the choice. It reminds me of Masterpiece Theater, so maybe for the next segment, I mean, I have bookshelves lined with books, so I'll get a nice comfy chair, smoking jacket, and a pipe and emulate Alistair Cook.
Well, I always thought that you had a smoking jacket and you would wear it every time for Book Banter.
Yeah, but, you know, sometimes, depending on when we record, I like to be a little comfortable. So now that the atmosphere has been set by the new music, I guess I'm going to have to take it out of mothballs and start wearing it more often.
Okay. So what are we talking about this week, sir?
This year, NBC late-night comedy music sketch show Saturday Night Live, or it's currently referred to as SNL, is celebrating its milestone 50th anniversary. Now, whether you remember its on-air or backstage highs and lows, waiting in the wings cast members like Gilda Radner, John Belushi, Eddie Murphy, Will Ferrell, Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, or Kate McKinnon, guest hosts like Steve Martin, Alec Baldwin, Buck Henry, or Scarlett Johansson, or memorable characters like the Samurai, Emily Latella, Stefan, or the wild and crazy Czechoslovakian Playboy, Saturday Night Live became a late-night weekend viewing habit for baby boomers through Generation Z, or Z. And the person who made it all possible 50 years ago was an unassuming aspiring comedian and Emmy Award-winning TV writer from Toronto named Lorne Michaels. To mark this golden anniversary, generations of SNL fans are offered a wonderful gift in the form of the first yet comprehensive biography of the man who not only was its creator, but its conscience as well. It's called Lorne, the Man Who Invented Saturday Night Live. It sounds like a grade Z horror movie, but it's not, believe me. Veteran journalist Susan Morrison has written a multi-layered portrait of the former Lorne Lipowitz, who grew up in a dysfunctional family situation in Toronto and got his comedy chops developed first as a comic, then partnering with Hart Pomerantz to create the CBC cult comedy variety series The Hart and Lorne Terrific Hour, and then as a writer for Rowan Martin's Laugh-In and a couple of Lily Tomlin specials, which earned him an Emmy. Then came this decision back in 1974 when Johnny Carson no longer wanted reruns of The Tonight Show to air on weekends. And that just open Saturday late night time slot became an opportunity for the new kid, that is, Lorne Michaels, along with the help of and support from NBC executives Herb Schlosser and Dick Ebersol, to bring back live television comedy, but with a baby boomer 1970s edge to it. And with plenty of meetings and brainstorming sessions that went on through the summer of 1975, the format that became NBC Saturday Night debuted on October 11th, 1975, with comedian George Carlin as the first of continuously rotating hosts, a staff of young writers, and a cast of aspiring performers who developed their comedic talent thanks to the Second City and National Lampoon stage shows called the Not Ready for Primetime Players. Throughout the book, Morrison offers an unending catalog of Lorne Michaels' quirky behavior and mannerisms that stand out throughout the television world. Of course, there is the required basket of freshly popped popcorn that is always placed on his desk, the lengthy quote-unquote job interviews with potential cast members that can last for hours, and waiting times that can last just as long, that ends with Michael saying they have the job without directly saying that they were hired. There's his army of dedicated loyal assistants who are called the Lornettes, and his habit telling lengthy name-dropping stories that sometimes stretch the truth of his many celebrity encounters. One time at a dinner party, Lorne started one of those stories with, "I was on a boat once in Egypt," which prompted Steve Martin to interject with, "I was on a plane once in Des Moines." With a biography of this nature, there's definitely no shortage of behind-the-scenes stories of Michaels and Saturday Night Live and the other projects that he also helmed that are luridly fascinating, both of the triumphs and miscalculations, with the latter making for non-stop interesting reading. For example, Rob Reiner, who hosted the third episode ever, insisted performing his monologue as a drunken lounge singer. The monologue was a disaster, but it became the inspiration for Bill Murray's Nick the Lounge Singer character. Or his other well-known project, Kids in the Hall. Just before the group was about to tape their pilot episode, Michaels gave them a brutal, sarcastic talking to, saying that their performance during dress rehearsal was terrible. So after that little talk, cast members Kevin McDonald, Scott Thompson, and Dave Foley locked themselves in their dressing room and proceeded to trash it. And when they emerged from their fit of destruction, the group put on a terrific show that led to them having their series to have a memorable 5-year run on both the CBC and HBO. But perhaps the most interesting part of the book are the chapters that start each of the 6 parts of the text, which chronicles from Sunday to Saturday, a typical week in the life of Saturday Night Live under Michael's tutelage. It spotlights the final week of October 2018 when actor Jonah Hill had the hosting duties. Every aspect of this routine, which has become entrenched for nearly 50 years, symbolizes the unorthodox way the show is put together and adds to Michael's growing mystique as the show's conscience. Perhaps the most fascinating of those chapters is the Saturday one. It gives an excellent portrayal of what goes on during the dress rehearsal and the live show and the frantic hour in between both. That's when Michaels retreats to his mini inner sanctum underneath the bleachers at Studio 8H, where he views both presentations and offers last-minute notes and changes that can be suggested even minutes before a sketch goes to air. As well, it continues with the much-anticipated post-show after-party, where Michaels always holds court at a table located at the back of the selected venue, and some early Sunday morning post-mortem, in which that's focus. It was a time he had to deal with the firestorm of emails that emerged from a commentary Pete Davidson delivered during Weekend Update, in which he mocked Army veteran and then congressional candidate Dan Crenshaw and the eye patch he wears as a result of losing an eye in combat. So, all in all, Lorne, the Man Who Invented Saturday Night Live, is the biography that is a definite must-read for the many generations of Saturday Night Live fans. Readers will be engrossed in the story of the complex individual who, by sheer destiny, became the person who changed the face of TV comedy and late-night viewing habits for the past 50 years. If the photo that's featured on the book cover, which was taken 10 years ago at the show's 40th anniversary special, where Michaels absorbs the reverential applause from the likes of Saturday Night Live veterans, or to be hosts or cast members, such as Steve Martin, Jim Carrey, Justin Timberlake, Chris Rock, and the late Norm Macdonald, is not enough of a vivid indication of Lorne Michaels' impact, then what is written between the covers will certainly tell you how it all happened.
Excellent. And you know, he's still a legendary person, a legendary figure, a visionary. It looks like the UK is about to do a Saturday Night Live version with his blessing, and they have been heavily involved in learning how to do the show, and he's going to be spending quite a bit of time in Britain to help launch the show.
Oh, I mean, that's got to add a lot of credibility to the British version when you have the founder helping to see things through.
Also, does it mention the fact that Lorne Michaels actually married into Canadian comedy legend here?
Oh, yes. It mentions his marriage to Rosie Schuster, who became an SNL writer, and also whose father is the legendary Frank Schuster of Wayne and Schuster fame. Before he married Rosie and they were dating, he spent a lot of time with Frank at his Toronto home learning the ropes of how Wayne and Schuster put together their comedy routines. So it was almost like a master class in a way.
And here's a little personal quick nugget of the story. He was, of course, partnered with Hart Pomerantz. They broke up amicably because Hart went into the legal profession. He was also a panelist on This Is the Law. He became a lawyer, and this was after they worked as writers together on Rowan Martin's Laugh-In. The personal nugget is Hart Pomerantz was my lawyer.
Oh, really? Was he a good lawyer, too?
I won't go into the details, but I needed a lawyer who was extremely funny because I was involved in a lawsuit that involved a practical joke that I was part of. And I needed a lawyer who had a sense of humor, and that's why I picked Hart Pomerantz.
And he fit the bill.
Oh,
literally.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, this week's book is...
It's called Lorne, The Man Who Invented Saturday Night Live by Susan Morrison. It's published by Random House, and it's $48.
And what other books do you recommend in this genre, sir?
I recommend the very first book that went behind the scenes at Saturday Night Live, called Saturday Night by Doug Hill and Jeff Weingrad. It was published in 1986, which tells the history of SNL up until 1986, when Lorne just returned to producing the show. And had one of my favorite chapters was the 1980-81 season under Jean Doumanian, or as she was dubbed, the Ayatollah Doumanian. Also, Bob Woodward's only non-political book, which was Wired, the 1984 best-selling biography of the late John Belushi, which caused quite a controversy when it was published.
So again, this week's book is...
Lorne, The Man Who Invented Saturday Night Live by Susan Morrison. It's published by Random House, and it's $48.
And how can we find you, sir?
On my blog, stuartnulmansgrapevine.wordpress.com, or at Best Story, the long-term journalism website at beststory.ca.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much, Stuart.
Well, you're welcome. Now I have to go back to my inner sanctum and look over my notes and see what has to be changed for the live show.
And don't forget your smoking jacket for the next episode of Book Banter.
I'm going to go into the cleaners and have it pressed.
Stuart Nulman with another edition of Book Banter here on the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
The Stuff File.
And we're just about a racetrack for this edition of the Stuff File program, but we do have one more story, and of course, boys and girls, it's that moment you've all been waiting for. It's time now for the Idiot of the Day.
And now it's time for the Strange Things Adults Do. This Stuff File presents the Idiot of the Day.
A man who is suspected to have vandalized a Metro Nashville police safety camera has been arrested. 30-year-old Rashawn Golden was arrested in connection to the vandalism of the safety camera at a recreation area on April 16th. In addition to the vandalism charges, Golden was also charged with resisting arrest and aggravated assault on a police officer. Police said safety camera video assisted in identifying Golden and his vehicle, which led to the arrest. You know what a police safety camera does, right? It takes police pictures and video. So why, oh why, would you try to vandalize a working police safety camera? One reason, and one reason only. You're an idiot!
Gee, I'm only a kid, but even I know you're an idiot.
And that's it for this edition of the Stuff File program, number 0821. Hope you enjoyed it. The website is thestufffile.com, and once again, Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H, where you'll find information and links on all of our guests by going to the weekly Stuff File page. Just look for the corresponding program number, and once again, that's 0821. Email me at peter@thestufffile.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Spoutable, Mastodon, and Blue Sky as PA Holder. Check us out on patreon.com, or you can become a patron of the program. Hope to see you back here for our next show on the air, online, or as a download. We're coming to you from everywhere, including KDXRadio.com, over the air on World FM in New Zealand, WLSL-LP FM in Dade City, Florida, KZZH-LP FM in Eureka, California, CKUW FM in Winnipeg, CFMU in Hamilton, CKLU in Sudbury, Local 107.3 FM in St. John, CHSR in Fredericton, and also streaming on just about any streaming service your little heart desires. That's it. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, a presentation of Flying Fish Communications. We leave you with this burning question. How come birds aren't tickled by feathers?